Hello everybody, it is me, Jurassic Alt, here to say that today we are going to be actually talking about the timeline. Today we're going to be talking about a theory video of how I think the books are in order 1 through 3. So that would be Lally's Game, H.A.P.S, and Somnophobia. So yeah, let's get started. So let's start off with Freddy's Pizzeria / Fazbear Entertainment. I can go either way. I'm going to present to the one first to you that I think is most likely. I think it's B7 that's first and then Help Wanted, but I can be swayed the other way. Let me explain. So B7 takes place during Freddy's Pizzeria, but they don't mention anything about the Mega Pizza Plex at all. So we know that's very clear that this is way before everything. Help Wanted, this takes place during like the Help Wanted of the game, of like how Help Wanted take place. And that's what I do think it is. But as I was doing research, they need to rebrand. And I'm like, boom, they need to rebrand just like how Help Wanted is to rebrand. But the thing is, they say in the book what's happened over the last few years. Help Wanted says the last few decades. Now, that could mean that, okay, few years means probably Freddy's Pizzeria. So then doesn't that mean Help Wanted should be in front of B7? Well, I don't think so. I think maybe, because the book is called Help Wanted. They could have titled it something else. They could have, they could have probably come up with a better name than I can think of right now. Editing Jurassic, if you have a better name that they could have came up with, put it here. Thanks, Editor Jurassic. But they chose Help Wanted, and there is a game called Help Wanted. And we know that Help Wanted, the game, takes place after FNAF 6. So, maybe it's just like me trying to go off of the games. And I definitely am going off the games here. I think it's B7 first, and then Help Wanted, because it says for the last few years. Now, few years could be meaning like what happened in the 80s. But I personally believe that when it says few years, it means what happened at Pizza Simulator with the whole burning down. I think it means that. But that's what I personally think. I think Help Wanted takes place after B7. But that is just my personal theory. And I am willing to change that of next timeline video I do, have it that Help Wanted's before B7, but I just feel like B7 is the first one in this. But yeah, that is my theory for that. Let's go to the next part. So the next part I have is Aftermath of FNAF 6 and Construction. Now you're probably saying, why don't you have Help Wanted in the Aftermath part with Construction? There's a reason why I put Fazbear Entertainment and Freddy's Pizzeria, is that I feel like that time is the start of Fazbear Entertainment. Fazbear Entertainment clearly seems like they're just starting out with Help Wanted, the book. So they're not well known. They're not a big corporate brand quite just yet. But when I think of the aftermath of FNAF 6, I'm thinking of what Tape Girl said in Help Wanted, the game. This is really confusing, I'm sorry. Of what Tape Girl said in the game of they went back to FNAF 6 and picked up old circuit boards and stuff like that. That's what I think of when they say, when I personally think aftermath, I think of like the aftermath of like picking up old ruined stuff, burnt stuff. That's why I'm not putting it there. I'm putting it in the Freddy's Pizzeria and Fazbear Entertainment time. Help Wanted there, because I don't think it should be in the aftermath, because it's not them picking up ruined stuff of like, hey, we're coming back and picking up a bunch of old relic stuff that was here. And so that brings us to the epilogues. I think the epilogues are the next thing in the story so far, because right now the first 3 epilogues are about them going through the ruins of FNAF 6 and all of the events of that. So they're going to the ruins and they're going through the old stuff there and cleaning up. So yeah, epilogue 1 through 3 so far is going to be the beginning of the aftermath part. And for main story Pleathrophobia, I'm putting that here too, and the reason why I'm putting that here too is because in the epilogue for Pleathrophobia of it, they mentioned 5 months before, and that's when the Mega Pizza Plex was still being built / maintained and kind of doing fine-tuned stuff. So yeah, and you could technically put it into the grand opening, but I don't feel like it's part of the grand opening. It seems like there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be built, like the security problem. There's a security thing that's going on that they need to fix, and in Security Breach, well, they don't have security, but they probably did at the beginning of it, because it seems like they were pretty locked down on it. at the beginning, besides the pressure story of some killer or being an employee there, but that's a whole different thing we'll talk about. But I think that this story would be count as the construction of it, because there are not guests here quite just yet. It's still kind of being built up. It's at the end of the construction part, because they're not making the stage and making the whole rooms. They're kind of just doing a last minute, all right, fine tune up, let's make sure everything's right. Clearly not, because Blur's fitness and flex is not clear and good to go. So yeah, I'm putting it in the aftermath of FNAF 6 and construction. Now let's go to the next part. So now we're in the Mega Pizzaplex era. Also, this is going to be divided into 3 subcategory groups. So I'm going to start off with the Glamrock Bonnie / Grand Opening. Now, I'm going to have the first story here under construction. Now, they do mention a Monty costume and they do mention a Roxanne, but they don't mention Roxanne Road or Monty Golf. Now, here's the thing. This is kind of the big thing that I'm weighing on. They mentioned go-karts. Now, they mentioned go-karts. That doesn't seem odd. They just mentioned go-karts. Shouldn't that be part of Roxanne's kind of whole thing? No. The thing is, specifically don't mention Roxanne Road. We have mentioned Roxanne Road one time, and that was in Somnophobia. They mentioned Roxanne Road, and they didn't mention any go-karts. So my theory is that Roxanne and Monty were side characters. They weren't main stage characters. I think they started out as side characters, which was my whole theory that's coming true. And I was so happy. Writing these notes like, oh my gosh, this is true. My theory is right. They started out as smaller kind of side characters, because in the duffel bag notes, they mentioned that Bonnie is out of commission and we might need to bring in Monty as our new bass player. Now, that sounds like to me that Monty wasn't a mainstream character. He was kind of just a side-off character. And Monty and Bonnie being out of commission made it that, okay, now Monty can be mainstream. He can be a mainstream character now. He's not going to be this side character that has his own little attraction like Kids Code with Foxy. I think the same thing's happening with Roxanne too, because we don't get mention of any of no Roxanne Wolf or Roxanne Road. They mentioned Roxanne, but they didn't say Roxanne was kind of the main part of the stage. Maybe Roxanne was main part of the stage and then kind of just went to Roxy Road and kind of was just disconnected. But Roxanne's a main character in the game of Security Breach. She's a main character that we see often, but I'm thinking that Roxanne and Monty were started out as just people in costumes, just like how Freddy Fazbear Diner was, of just people in costumes. I think Monty and Roxanne were just started out as side characters of people being in costumes and then getting upgraded to full-on animatronics. Maybe that's why we don't see a Foxy animatronic, because Foxy never got past the being a side character that they just felt like they didn't get enough. Why would they do that? I don't know. But they mentioned no Roxanne Road or Montgomery Golf Course. They just mentioned Monty was in a costume. Now, the Roxanne thing, I could be totally off, but they mentioned go-karts specifically. They don't mention Roxanne Road or anything like that. So it seems like that's how it is. So I think Under Construction is the first one in the grand reopening / Bonnie era. Now, the next one that takes place is Cleithrophobia. And the reason why I think Cleithrophobia takes place next is because it's literally the events right after Under Construction. And we get a kind of date, how long ago it's been open, and it's been open for 5 months. In the epilogue, they mentioned it's been 5 months. So that means Bonnie didn't have very much time on the main stage, just in general, which is pretty sad. So, yeah. Also, in Under Construction, they mentioned Lally's game, so no one has taken Lally yet, which is very interesting. So I would assume that Lally's game was taken out real quickly, because they don't mention it at all in these other stories. So yeah. And now we are on to the Monty / Roxy time. I think Monty was added on first and then Roxy was added. But yeah, the first story I think that is happening here is H.A.P.S, because in this story they mention about the role-playing area and they mention bumper cart. And they don't say Roxanne Wolf. Yes, there are bumper carts in Roxy Road, but they're kind of off to the side. And it seems like where Roxy Road used to be was where the daycare was, because they had a whole roller coaster, carnival stuff, and just a lot of stuff. I think what happened with Roxy Road and with the daycare, they kind of just, air quotes, switched places of daycare got to be reduced to a smaller size and Roxy Road got upgraded to be a bigger size. But that's just kind of a side note thing I want to mention. But they specifically mentioned bumper carts, not Roxy Road. So Roxanne might not be a mainstream character quite just yet. Now let's go to pressure. They didn't mention anything about an AR booth. So that probably means that under construction, this is after under construction, because they don't mention a AR booth at all, and this takes place after H.A.P.S, because they don't mention H.A.P.S. They put Roxy or Monty, but yet again, they didn't really mention any of the Glam Rock animatronics, so yeah, this story wasn't really helpful. So now let's go to Frailty. Now, this one is probably the most iffy one I have, but let me kind of just give my thoughts on it. They only mentioned one time about the Mega Pizzaplex, and that was only one time, and it was one kid in a hospital. But I tried so hard to find anything. So the girl basically helps out little kids, and we get mentions of little kids. They mentioned one kid named Billy who she helped out. And I searched through the first 3 books. I could not find anybody. I found someone named Bobby, but that wasn't in H.A.P.S, and that's not Billy. B7, the main character's name is Billy, but that takes place way before Frailty. I even looked in Pressure because they mentioned his name was Adam, not Billy at all. So I really tried to look. Now, the only reason why I'm putting Frailty kind of just in this in-between gray area of Monty and Roxy is that because she mentions plenty of times that she made a mistake in her past, and I feel like that's meaning something connection with the Mega Pizzaplex to Baby, because there's a theory right now going around that Baby's MatPat has a theory that Baby is in control of everything, which is interesting, and I kind of want to talk about that. In fact, I have a whole different theory. I have a whole theory in the future about the LC girl that I want to talk about, and it's very interesting. I'm very excited to talk about that. But yeah, I'm going to put it in between Monty/Roxanne kind of era, and the reason why I'm doing that is because I feel like she has a connection to Baby, and I feel like Baby has been part of the Mega Pizzaplex for a little bit and has some role in it for at least a good little while. So I'm not gonna say it's at the grand opening, but I feel like it's between Monty and Roxy kind of era if I had to put this story anywhere. And so that brings us to Somnophobia, which is not our last story, but our second to last story that I have. They just mentioned Roxanne Rhodes, so that puts this to be Roxanne's a main stage character. And they mentioned Sun and Moon, clearly, and they don't mention Sun and Moon at all in H.A.P.S or in any of the previous stories. So Sun and Moon seems like a more recent character that's been added to the group. So I'm putting this story in the Roxy area. And then that brings us to After Everything, which is Lally's gang. Because Lally, the main character in that story, is a full-grown adult. And it seems like his childhood was the Mega Pizzaplex. So this story might actually take place after Gregory and all of the DLC ruins. So yeah, but I don't have very much to prove there, but it's kind of obvious that it takes place after everything. But that is my theory on the whole timeline for the timeline for books 1 through 3. I am very proud of this video. I literally spent like the last 3-4 weeks kind of just taking notes. I say 4 weeks. From the very beginning, I have been trying to put together this timeline for these books, and just in the back of my head, that's why I have a timeline part in each of all of my old theory videos, is because I wanted to do a timeline, and I feel like I don't ever see anybody try to tackle timelines for the Fazbear Frights books, which makes sense because there was 12 books and 3 stories in each of them. So what's that put that to? 36 things to figure out in the timeline? I'm not doing that all at once. I'm going to dish it out every 3 books. I think that's a good amount to do it. So yeah, but this is the first timeline video. The next one should be out when book 6 comes out. So yeah, the next theory video for the next book should be out next week or in 2 weeks. So yeah, and every Wednesday, the third book will come out on a Wednesday. The epilogue book might actually come out on a Thursday or a Friday. maybe a Saturday, probably a Friday or a Saturday. And those ones are kind of easy because there's a lot shorter than the rest of the book, so I think I can get those out a bit quicker. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This is the first video of 2023. This is so cool. I'm so proud of all that I've done and like how much I've grown, views and just everything. Like I'm really proud of everything what we've created, guys. Like I couldn't do any of this if it wasn't for you guys. And I know this video is getting really long and I don't want to make this whole big old speech, but thank you guys for everything you've done to help me with this channel. It really means a lot to me. I love you guys. Thank you guys for making this be possible. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy your day. And remember, clouds and wireframe chicken wire. I don't know.